Well, thank you very much, everyone, for joining our UC application workshop. My name is Mr. Tavison, along with Miss Oliver and Miss Leva today. So we'll go ahead and, before we get started, just talk a little real quick about our Midi Norms. Please keep your video off and your microphones muted during the workshop. If you have any questions, please feel free to go ahead and write them, type them in the chat, and we'll answer them throughout the presentation. And once again, just like Miss Oliver said, this workshop is being recorded. So the UC application series overview, we'll be talking about the following topics. First, we'll be going over having an overview over the UC system and applications. Second, about the entrance requirements. Third, about the sections of the applications. Fourth, we'll be talking about the personal insight questions, known as the PIQs. And the next one is about avoiding common mistakes within the application. The following is about the fee waiver eligibility, and last but not least, additional resources and information. To begin with, we're going to be doing a little overview of the UC system. So there is 10 UC systems all across California. There's 9 UC campuses that offer the undergraduate and graduate with professional education. UCSF is actually in that graduate and professional only, so there is no undergraduate. And there's over 800 degree programs all across the UC system. Campuses are research-based, so it's a great opportunity to research all these UC campuses through the links that we have here on site. So as you can see, you could do virtual campus tours, and also we have a link with the campuses and majors also if you don't have an opportunity to actually visit these campuses on site. And these links are live as well. Next is the entrance requirements. So first, we'll be talking about the A through G and the GPA requirement in order to be eligible to apply to the UC system. So you must earn a grade point average of a 3.0 or better in the A through G courses with no grade lower than a C in these courses and subjects. So from history, English, mathematics, science, language, visual and performing arts, or the college prep elective must be C's or better. And now the college admission exams are no longer requiring the SAT or ACT exams as a requirement for admissions. And we also added the information that both have notified the students. Next is we're talking about the undocumented students. So we just want to let you guys know that there is resources available. Please, if you fall in this category, please visit with your counselors so we could go ahead and assist you with the UC process, okay? Just because you're undocumented or you fall under the AB 540, that doesn't mean that you don't qualify for admissions. Please visit with your counselor so we could assist you and help you through this process, because it is very tricky, but we want to make sure that you get the full resource so you could be eligible to apply. And as well, we also have resources available just in case you need it here on this link as well too. But the main thing is please visit with your counselor and let them know, so that way we could assist you through this process, making sure that we answer all questions very thoroughly, so that way you could go ahead and qualify under the category. Okay, the UC application process, it only has one application for all 9 campuses. It's only available online, so via desktop or via mobile view. After application is submitted, copies are sent to each campus that student has selected. So every campus receives the same copy of application, and each campus will review the application individually as well too. The general admission process does not allow for interviews or supplemental materials, examples, resumes, or letters of rec. By invitation only, letters of recommendation or portfolios or additions. For example, UCSB, the dance and music major requires an audition. So those are the only times that are exempted, that needs to be by invitation only. Communication with applicants will occur via email. Students should have a reliable professional email address for use when creating the UC and other college planning accounts, separate from from our school district school email. Make sure that you check your email regularly and respond to our requests in a timely manner. The UC application dates and deadlines are as follows. August 1st, as you've seen, UC applications opens on November 1st through the 30th. That's when the actual application is available for you to submit. Then between February and March, notifications of admissions decisions will be sent via email. And May 1st is a statement of intent to register, so it's a deadline. Within May, June, waitlist submissions will be notified as well too. So remember, you cannot submit your application until November. No early action or early decision will be available. Applications are not reviewed on a first come, on a first served basis. Okay, you guys have plenty of time to November 30th, okay, to make sure that you guys complete the application. Before you start, please obtain the following and be prepared with all the information that are here, okay? So I won't go through them all, but just make sure that you guys look at this slide here. By obtaining copies of your unofficial transcripts, make sure you visit the counseling department secretary, Ms. Giovanna. Also, if you have taken any AP exams, have those available. You'll need your social security number or DACA, SSN, or your ITIN if you have one. Citizenship status, and as well too, you'll need some parent informational along with household income, parents' employer background, in addition to the California State Student SSID, and you could get that from the transcript or with your counselor. And also consider and explore your major and campuses, okay? Write your response to your personal insight questions. Create a document outlining your activities, awards, and work volunteer experiences. And also you'll be needing some type of method of payment, either through a credit card or check as well, preferred. And within this link here, this is a website, and you can actually click on it and it'll take you directly to the application. And here you'll go ahead and create an account. By creating this account will allow you to go ahead and start the application process.
So once you are at this page that I just showed you guys and you create your account, then you'll be able to start your application. And there are 7 different sections of the application. So you'll want to go through those sections in sequential order, because information that you answer in your About You section could have influence on other sections later. And it's designed so that you just go through it all. There are ways you can go back to different sections later and just make sure that the information is correct. You also have that top bar on the right-hand side that shows you different options, such as your application status after you submit it. The My Account button shows you your username and password. And then you'll see, like I said, the 7 sections and tabs in the UC application. So the details that are shared earlier in the application can determine questions that are asked later on in the application. So the first section is the About You. This one's very important just to make sure that you get everything correct, because this is your important demographic information. This is your mailing address, your contact information. So the first thing it's going to ask you, it's going to show you a screenshot like this that's shown on the screen. And it's going to ask you which semester you are applying for. Most of you, if not all of you, will be applying for fall quarter or semester 2022. The reason they say quarter or semester is because some UC schools are on the semester system and some UC schools are on a quarter system. And I'm not going to go into that too much, but basically that's why it says both of them. You all are going to be applying as freshmen. There are some times where students will do 2 years at a community college and then transfer, so then they would select that option. But for those of you who are planning on applying right now, this fall, for next fall, you would select freshman and save and continue. After you save and continue that, you'll see this screen right here that says it's your time to shine. It'll tell you what to expect, what you'll need, and then you can start the application. It'll also give you the option to email the personal insight questions to you ahead of time. And it does give you that option later on in the application too, if you forget to do it right then. So the about you is very important because it sets the context of who you are, tells them who you are, where you came from, and it helps the universities not only understand you, but understand your environment and community as well. We really want to emphasize with you guys, nothing shared on your application will hurt your chances. It is only an additive process. And what that means is that a lot of times we have students who shy away from sending not so great AP scores, or maybe they're nervous about a grade on their transcript that they already remediated, but they still are nervous about that grade listed on their transcript. As long as you're meeting the minimum requirements and as long as you're putting your best effort to present yourself, they're going to see, okay, what are the positive things about your application? They're not going to look at something and say, oh, ding that application and negatively add points to it. So again, it's an additive process. They want you to share all the information that you have to share with them, and it can only help you. It's not going to hurt you. Information listed in the section, so the About You section, as I mentioned, it could be used later to determine the application fee waiver eligibility, especially when it comes to household income, which I'll talk about in a moment. And so in the About You, you can see the topics that are asked in the About You section. So you'll see ahead of time, okay, I need to make sure I know all of this information when I'm starting my application so that I have that information ready to go. The citizenship and residency portion of the About You section is really important. If you are a US citizen, it makes it easy. You say you're from the United States, and then they ask you a few other questions, including your social security number. Applicants must select a country of citizenship. However, students who are considered undocumented, they would actually select no selection for their country of citizenship. So if that applies to you, I would encourage you to look at the slide a little bit in more detail. And like Mr. Thavison said, talk to your counselor, meet with one of us, and we can help advise you for this, because they want those undocumented students to select no selection, which is a little counterintuitive. Also, all applicants who have an actual social security number are required to enter it. And then for students who are under DACA, they will enter a valid SSN, or the SSN for work purposes, or the ITIN if available. I'm checking the chat real quick, make sure, okay. So the household size and income, this one is also very important because, like I mentioned, this can determine your application fee waiver eligibility. So what this is used for in the UC application is context about your home environment and to determine the fee waiver, but it is not used for determining your residency status or eligibility for financial aid. So when you're inputting this, just know that you are also going to be submitting your FAFSA or California DREAM Act, which is what is used to determine eligibility for financial aid. So those would be two separate applications. And there's some screenshots here. We see your household. It'll ask you your house address, who lives with you, what's the total income earned last year by your family, and then how many people were supported by this income. It's usually income by your parents or legal guardians. And then you'll see a screenshot here as well of asking about your parents' highest level of education as well. So I breezed over a little bit of the About You section because the other ones are pretty straightforward and there aren't as many questions on those parts. But now we're jumping into section number 2, which is campuses and majors, which is really one of the most important sections on the application. There's 2 links here that are really useful. One is a PDF, so it's one document with all of the majors and all of the University of California campuses so that you can look at all of them at once. One good tip for using that is if you know how to use the find function, which is Command or Control F, depending on what device you're using. If you use the find function and you type in the major you're interested in, then you can see which ones offer that. So if you click on this link here, it's going to open up the PDF slowly. and you'll see all of the majors for different campuses. And if I do the find function and I look for psychology, you see, okay, there's psychology at most of the campuses. So it's going to give me a lot of results there too. So that's a really good resource if you want to look at all of them at once. The other link is if you know what majors you're looking for and you just want to search for those ones. So that link will allow you to search for the specific majors on a different system. It's not a PDF document, but it'll match you with different majors for different campuses. So if you don't already know which campuses offer the major that you're looking for, then I highly encourage you to look at these documents. I'll actually post the link to the PDF in the chat right now. But I also want to remind you guys that this will be shared with all of the 12th grade students on our counseling website, as well as on the 12th grade Google Classroom. So you'll have all this information. Okay. So when you're selecting your campuses and majors, you can select as many campuses as you would like. Keep in mind, there are 9 undergraduate campuses that you can apply to with that one application. But each campus does have an application fee of $70. So if you're applying to 9 campuses, that is quite a bit of application fees. However, if you are eligible for the application fee waiver, it can cover 4 campuses that you're applying to. Usually you don't know if you're going to be offered the fee waiver until closer to the end. So if you're not sure, you can start with 4 campuses, or you can kind of adjust accordingly, and then you can always go back and add more campuses before you submit the application. The universities are not ranked in order of preference, so just select them as you want. There's not going to be like, my first choice is UC Berkeley. They're going to be sent individually to all of the campuses that you select. And then don't share your preferences on your specific schools, because like I'd mentioned, the application is going to all of the schools. So if you tell them UC San Diego is my favorite school and it's getting sent to UC Davis, then it'll be like, that probably wasn't a good idea for them to say that on their application. It's not going to help make it a little more general for the University of California schools. When you're on the application, this is exactly what it'll look like. So it'll be a screenshot of this map, and then you would just check off the campuses. As you check them off, your estimated total cost is going to start to go up. So $70 for one. If you keep adding, it's going to go up more. Again, that's not taking into account any possible fee waiver eligibility yet, but just know that it is possibly going to be that much if you are not eligible for that fee waiver. Once you select campuses, you're going to be asked to list your intended major for each campus. You also may be asked for some alternate majors as well, which I'll go into in a second. So please check your campus majors ahead of time. A lot of times we like schools, but we don't realize that they might not have the program that we quite want. And so it's good to really look at, okay, what schools have my major first, and then decide which schools you're more interested in based off of that. Most of the campuses do allow for alternate majors in case the first one you're applying to is really impacted and they can't guarantee you a spot in that program. They may offer you a spot in your alternate major. Some exceptions like UC Berkeley, they only ask you for 1 major. And then some might be titled differently. So you have to be a little creative. You have to kind of do some digging in terms of, okay, in one school it might be called marine biology, but another school might be called aquatic biology, but they're relatively the same. So just make sure you're looking at what the majors are called and really doing your research on, is that the major that you actually want? Undeclared is okay to apply as. You can be admitted as undeclared. Just be a little careful with that, because if you apply as undeclared and then you try to switch into either what's called an impacted or basically the really popular majors that are harder to get into, it might be more challenging for you to get into that impacted major. So if you know what major you want to apply for, I would suggest doing that. But if you know you want to go to UC, but you're really not sure what you want to major in, then undeclared is okay. And then double majors or double minors are declared after enrollment. So you don't worry about that during the application process. That's once you're actually enrolled at the school. One unique thing about UC San Diego as a campus is it requires the students to rank their college preferences, which determine the students' general education requirements and their residence halls. So what that means is that these universities, they have these smaller little environments called colleges, within the university system. And at UC San Diego, they have this college system. They have 7 colleges. And basically, those 7 colleges determine what are the general education classes that that student is going to be taking, and where is that student going to be living on campus. UC San Diego is a huge campus, and so they have 7 little different micro communities within there. And so if you're applying to UC San Diego, just do yourself a favor of researching the college systems ahead of time. There is a link right there. And again, this is all going to be shared with you guys. So look at those 7 colleges at UC San Diego and really do your research on them and which one you would prefer. I know from experience, I did research, but I did not do enough research on the college system at UC San Diego. And so I was admitted to one that I wasn't necessarily crazy about. And it's almost impossible to change once you get admitted to one of the colleges there. So when you're selecting your major, it's going to allow you to either browse by college or browse by category. I would recommend browsing by category, because when you browse by college, you're going to be browsing colleges that are called the College of Letters and Science, and that houses like 50 different majors, and you don't really know what majors are in that. So category makes it a little more clear. As you guys can see, these are all pretty standard categories, and we can usually figure out where our major is based on these categories. You can uncollapse all of the categories if you want, so to see all of the majors, or you can just uncollapse them one at a time to look at, okay, what are the majors in that field? Oh, I didn't quite find my major. Let me look at another one. On this side here, you can see how I select a major and then I select an alternate major. So again, you're going to usually select major and an alternate in most cases for most of the schools you're applying for. So jumping into the next section, again, I'm going to check if there's any questions. I lost my little chat bar. So with academic history, this is also a really crucial point in the application, because this is where the universities see what classes did you take or what grades did you get. And so they learn about your academic history through this process. You're not sending them your transcript. They don't get your transcript until much later, until you're practically going to be enrolling at the school. So this is basically honor system, you're self-reporting your grades. So you are self-reporting any A through G coursework that you took in high school and any college coursework if you have any college coursework that you've taken. Our school code is listed there. You can search for North Salinas High School, or our school code is 052746. And then if you have attended any other high schools, you will need to repeat the process for each school. And there will be a little button shown there that says add another high school. So you'll select that. For any college courses that you've completed, so it's concurrent enrollment or dual enrollment, you will input those in a separate category, separate section that's called colleges attended while in high school. If you completed high school level foreign language or mathematics in middle school, which isn't applicable for everyone, but some people took Spanish in middle school or maybe higher level math in middle school, you can report those classes and you don't have to send an official transcript for those courses. So for you guys, this will be really important because you'll need to be able to make sure that your dates of attendance are correct, that the grading system is listed correctly, the term system is listed correctly, and so on. For you all, the dates will be August 2018 through May 2022. And you can see in the screenshot here that it'll ask you the academic year for each grade that you attended. It'll also ask you if you took summer classes after that year. So if you did, you can check those boxes and there will be space for you to input your summer courses. Our grading system is A through F, and our term system is semester. Once you get to the course options, they will be listed in a drop-down menu for you. I would say 99%, if not 100% of the courses at North High are listed on the UC course list. And so there should be an option for everything that you have taken. If for some reason a course is not listed, you can manually enter it. And again, if you're having any issues, just reach out to a counselor and we're happy to help advise you with that.
Miss Miss Oliver, can I just make a comment in this particular
Of
section?
course.
When you're typing in your courses on the drop down menu, um, like for example, I had a student the other day who stopped by and he had, instead of AP Japanese, he typed in or selected Japanese 4 because when he was typing, that's what came up. But if you just typed in JA, he had much more options in the drop down. So you don't want to you want to be sensitive to how much you enter because it's sensitive to what you type.
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
definitely. Mhm. There are a few other ones that are a little trickier. I know sports medicine, a few options tend to pop up for that course. And so we always say, try to match it to your transcript as much as possible. But again, like Ms. Leva said, if you need to kind of take a step back and just start typing a couple letters and see what options are available, you're likely to find what you're looking for that way too. Because really, you shouldn't need to manually enter that much, if anything. Pretty much everything should be listed there unless you went to a different school, and then we can't guarantee that they have everything listed. And so when we're reporting grades, the grade 1 is your fall grade and the grade 2 is your spring grade. I know last year it will get a little more complicated with reporting those junior year grades. I'll show you in a couple slides what you're going to be wanting to do for that one. But in general, your fall grade is grade 1, your spring grade is grade 2. Or if it was last year, whatever grade you received in the class first is grade 1, and whatever grade you received in the class next on your transcript is grade 2. For senior grade reporting, because you guys are currently in your classes, you are going to list grade 1 as in progress for any courses that you are in right now. And for any of the courses that are all year long, so you're going to take it in the fall and the spring, you would put planned for grade 2 because you're going to be taking it soon. For fall semester classes only, and one example of this is government. US government, you only take it in the fall semester. So you'll put in progress for the fall, and the UC application would like you to put no in no course this term is what that means for the spring. It's not going to hurt your chances. They even cite government as an example for doing that. Spring semester courses only. So economics, it's a good example. You're going to put no for grade 1 because you don't have it in the fall, and planned for grade 2 because you're not in it quite yet. And again, this is confirmed by the UCs. That is what you're supposed to do. So don't be afraid. But if you have any questions on this part, again, we're happy to help you with you. So we know that the universities have responded to some of the changes with the COVID-19 pandemic. So they are accepting between the spring, summer, fall of 2020 and spring, summer of 2021, they will allow students to select what's called pass or no pass. And what we have highlighted, because this is what our district used, is credit and no credit as grade options. This does not apply to everyone because for the 2020-2021 school year, students had to opt in and apply within a certain window of time for grades to be changed to credit or no credit. So this isn't applicable for everyone. If you don't have these on your transcript, don't even worry about it. However, some students will have credit or no credit on their transcripts, and they should know that credit will be accepted in terms of A through G coursework during these terms between spring of 2020 and summer of 2021. You'll see on your 11th grade year, the grade codes kind of expand because they allow the pass or no pass and the credit, no credit. So some useful tips for your North High courses in general. If you're going to be in AP Economics, then know that AP Economics is AP Macro, MACRO Economics, not micro. So just make sure if you are doing that later and you can't remember, come back to this slide and we can verify. You can also ask Ms. Foster, she'll let you know. The only UC approved honors courses are World History Honors and NGS 2 Honors. If some of you have chemistry honors, I know that was honors approved at 1.2. I know we shifted to NGS2, but I know sometimes you have classes that say honors on your transcript, but if it's not world history, NGS2 or chem, then it's not technically considered an honors course with the UC approval. Now, GATE plus, Math Advanced, Math 2 honors, Math 3 honors, any other plus classes, those are considered regular college prep courses. So they're not honors or AP. They'll still see on your transcripts later that you took advanced courses, that you challenge yourself. It's not going to count against you for not having those count as honors courses. And then you also want to include all original courses and grades and enter repeated courses and grades as well. So if you had any D's or F's on your transcript and you retook the courses to get a C or better, that's okay. They still want you to report the grade that you got previously. And then you'll also report the remediated grade that you had during the semester that you remediated that grade. Again, they want to know everything, and it's not going to count against you as long as you're meeting A through G requirements and all the other minimum requirements. They'll see that. So listing college courses. After you submit your high school courses, you'll be asked to list any college courses if you've taken any. If you haven't, you can move along in that section. But if you have, you want to record any college courses that you've completed. This includes any concurrent enrollment courses or any dual enrollment courses. So if you're in English 1A right now, you're going to want to input that. Or if you took Counseling 1 last year, you'll want to input that. College courses can still satisfy A through G requirements, which is awesome. And then if you're currently in one, then you would put in progress. Or if you're taking one in the spring, then you would put planned and make sure it matches with the A through G subject area. For dual enrollment English 1A, it's a little tricky. So if any of you guys are in English 1A, make sure you pay attention to this. You will actually not input 12th grade English through high school. You will only report it as a college course, and it'll say in progress since your official grades for English 1A are posted in December. Again, they'll see that you're taking it at a college level, so that'll validate your 4th year of English. So here are some things you should also consider, because they also give you an additional comment section in the academic history. And I recommend always using the additional comment section. UC representatives also recommend to always use this. So you want to tell them about any situation, circumstance, or experience that really isn't explained in your application or explained in your academic history. If there's any discrepancies in grades, if there was a really hard semester for you because something else was going on in your life, they want to know, they want to have that context. They also will want to know any significant grading challenges in COVID during the COVID-19 pandemic. So even if you don't have a situation where you have to explain why your grades were not as great as they could have been, you can still use that area to explain different grading policies due to COVID-19. You can explain why we were in learning cycles last year instead of semesters. A lot of people see the transcripts and get really confused about that. So you'll want to let them know per AB 104, the grade changes were to credit or no credit. If you're going to input that, just let us know. We can help you to kind of communicate that better. And then you will want to let them know as well that during your 11th grade year, last school year, we'd switched to learning cycles for the school year while in distance learning. So the students actually took 3 year-long classes in the fall, term 1, and 3 other courses during term 2 in the spring. And you can see on here the learning cycles, which on your transcript will show up as month 10, month 12, month 3, month 5, and you'll see kind of a translation of what those mean there. It's a little confusing. It's even confusing for us. So we're happy to, again, help you communicate that in your additional comment section. But don't use this space to answer any additional personal insight question. That's not what this is for. Test scores. I know that that's always a hot topic. So for fall 2022 and for the foreseeable future, UCs will not consider SAT or ACT test scores when making admissions decisions or for scholarships either. So if you've taken these exams, you can report your scores, but it'll only be used for like math or English placement. It won't be used for admissions. SAT subject tests are not required, but sometimes they are recommended for certain majors. So you'd want to research your major and see if it's recommended. AP exams are not required for admission, But if you taken or plan to take AP exams, you really want to send them your scores, or at least report your scores, or let them know that you're planning on taking the exam. Again, even if you got a 1 on an AP exam, it's okay. You can share that information with them. It's not the end of the world. They want to know all of that information. IB exams are not applicable for our school site, so you select no. And then the English language proficiency test, or the TOEFL, that's only applicable for international applicants. Activities and awards section. I'm not going to go over all of these in great detail, but basically when you get to this section, there's 6 categories that they're asking about. It's other coursework, any educational prep programs like Upward Bound, community service, work experience, awards and honors, and extracurricular activities. And you guys can read through these on your own. This is straight from the UC application. When you are doing the activities and awards, the most important part of all of it is really describe what you did and what your role was and what the program is. They don't know all of the programs, acronyms that we have. So really make it clear, what is the program? What does the program do? What do you do? How long have you been doing it for? And just be very thorough with that with that section. They really want to know your commitment to the activity. How long have you been doing it? They want to see any growth or any skills that you've developed, or any things that you've learned, or any leadership skills or roles that you have obtained through that activity or award or extracurricular. And they also want to know everything. So it doesn't just have to be sports or clubs. It can be volunteering, it can be working, it can even be babysitting. They want to know how you spend your time outside of the classroom. And it doesn't have to be in the most traditional way that we think, as long as you're doing something productive and it's something that is helping you grow as a person and helping you to develop the skills that will help you succeed at a university. I believe this is you, Ms. Leyva. So I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Leyva, who will wrap up the presentation for us.
So the UC application is not just an application for admission, it's also a scholarship application. And I think back in the day when I applied to UC Santa Cruz, it on the paper cover, can you imagine they had paper applications back then? It would say application for admission and scholarships to the UC. So when you get to this section, you're going to go under each of these categories: academic major or affiliation with a group, career plans, ancestry, ethnicity, and so on and so forth. If you decide you're going to be a transfer student, and there's going to be very specific qualifiers under each category. So for example, under ancestry, there may be a qualifier for Italian Americans or Filipino Americans. And if you fall under that category, you would check that qualifier and you would be considered for that scholarship, okay? So you want to spend some time reviewing each scholarship choice and selecting those that match your specific characteristics, interests, and background. There's no limit to any of the qualifiers. You can check as many as that apply to you and that you would like to be considered for. The Educational Opportunity Program, I was actually an EOP student myself when I was at UC Santa Cruz. And I was encouraged to apply to EOP. I was a first-generation college student. I came from a low-income background. My parents worked in agriculture, and they themselves had never been to college before. So, you know, having met that criteria, I applied for the program, and I was able to take advantage of a week-long on-campus orientation before I started school. I received a small book stipend and additional academic advising. So if you meet those qualifiers, we encourage you to consider applying for the EOP program and filling out this section. This is a screenshot of what that section looks like. As part of that, you want to be sure to fill out the parent's level of education, the family size, and the income. Okay. So the personal insight questions, although they're not going to like make or break you in terms of your admission. They are a big part of what admissions counselors look at to understand you as a whole student, right? They call, the UC calls their admission approach holistic, meaning they want to see the entire student, not just academics. So the PIQs help in a really big way to add context, like what is the environment that you're in? What environment are you being successful in, or what environment are you having challenges in? So you're going to have to answer 4 of these questions, and I'll go into some tips in a second, but you're going to have to answer 4 of these questions. If you want to have the questions emailed to you, click up here with the where the yellow arrow is, and you'll have a copy of the questions emailed to you. I also added a link here to the Personal Insight Questions Guide from the UC. And if you notice, it breaks down a few tips and tricks, but then what it does is it gives you the prompt, and then it gives you some guiding questions, okay? And these guiding questions will help you if you do this guide for all 8 questions. At the end, you should be really sure of which 4 of the 8 you're going to answer, because you're going to have had the easiest time answering the guiding questions. So they'll provide clarity as to which 4 you should answer. I recommend that you do this activity so that you're picking the 4 questions that will most tell your story the best, if that makes any sense. Okay. So again, you will have 8 questions to choose from. You have to answer 4 of the 8 questions, okay? The responses are capped at 350 words. For the most part, I would encourage you to try to use all 350 words, but I have seen some really good essays that are closer to the 250 mark. The questions you should choose to answer are entirely up to you. And I'll go back to the guide. If you do the entire guide, you'll be able to gain insight as to which 4 you should answer based on having done the guide, because you'll know which ones you had the easier time with, or which ones you felt told a better story about who you are. All questions are equal. There's not like question 1 is more important than question 8. They're all have equal weight and value. So some tips from the UC on how to approach these questions. So present your information and ideas in a focused, thoughtful manner. Restating what you already wrote in application is not what you should be using this space for. So for example, you don't want to make a long list of all your extracurricular activities, because they can just turn to that section of the application and see your activities listed there. You really want to maybe use one of your activities as an example, related to one of the questions. But don't regurgitate or relist what you already wrote in the application. Use specific concrete examples to support the points you want to make. So I'll give you a real world example. Earlier this week, I read a PIQ, and the question they chose to answer was what made them different. And they talked about, like, long story short, they talked about, the way that they manifest their thoughts, and that there's, the way that they think and think and think about their goal until it sort of manifests and becomes real. But they didn't give any examples. So it was very dreamy, and it really lacked examples. And so my feedback to them was, talk about a time where you thought through something so carefully and how that, manifested itself. So it could be like, I've always wanted to be top 25, and I dreamed about getting my award senior year and being recognized. And so to carry that out, I did these things, so be specific. Tell us about yourself, triumphs and challenges. It's really important that when you're talking about your challenges, you don't just talk about the challenge itself, but you're talking about, like, for example, despite being first generation college student, I've managed to, take 5 years of math and 4 years of science, and I'm top 25, or despite my parents being an immigrant, we've managed to whatever, or me being an immigrant. So I'll tell you a good one. I had a good essay I read earlier this week too that talked about a challenge was how this student was an English language learner and had to take ALL, up until 9th grade. And then, she worked really hard to build her language skills to where she was successful in AP English junior year. So I thought that was a really good example of how she took a challenge and described, her resilience, and then made it successful. Use your own voice. I'll give you an example of what not to do. A lot of us want to write about, a really important person in our life and how they shaped and helped us, but this isn't about them. It sounds awful, but it's not. It's about us and what we're going to offer the university. So don't write about other people, write about yourself. And again, relax, write clearly and concisely. Because again, even though this isn't the only piece that you're going to be weighted on, it is an important part. You want to do your best, but you also don't, this isn't going to make or break you. And again, don't mention a specific campus, just like Ms. Oliver has already highlighted. There's two areas on the UC application where you can do additional comments. This is the second one. It's what it looks like. This one gives you 550 words. You want to be careful for sure not to answer another PIQ. That's not what you want to use this space for, because if they see that you're trying to answer a PIQ, they're not going to read it. But definitely, like, I met with a student earlier today who was debating whether to apply to UC or not because they'd gotten D's in a summer course that they didn't even, like, it took them forever to figure out that they were enrolled in this class because they were doing something. It's a long story, but basically it was 2 D's out of like a whole host of A's and B's. So it just looked weird on the transcript. And I encouraged them to apply and use this space to explain what happened. Like, why did this person, out of all these A's and B's, all of a sudden get 2 D's that summer? And so this would be a perfect place to write about what happened. And I would encourage anyone that has a situation like that to consult with their counselor to help shape that, the wording in that paragraph. More importantly, so many of us have been impacted by COVID-19, whether it's social, emotional, the loss of a loved one, financial insecurity, all of that came with the pandemic. There were students on our campus who were really impacted by the social justice movement that occurred in spring 2020 and Black Lives Matter and whatnot. So, beyond, what the normal, like, I had trouble being sheltered and being in shelter in place, which all of us, I think, struggled with. If there was a significant impact, this is also where you want to use that space. And again, not for an additional essay. So avoiding common mistakes on the PIQ, acronyms. Going back to that example I gave you of the student who was an English language learner, they started their application saying, I was an EL, and like not everybody knows what an EL is. So writing that out, English language learner, quotations or dialogue, this is not the place. You only have 350 words. So there's not a lot of room for quoting somebody. That's not the kind of answer or writing that you're going to do for these PIQs. For these PIQs, you want to be clear, concise, and give specific examples. Don't philosophize, like, don't put, I don't know, if a tree falls in the forest and no one's there to hear it, doesn't make a sound, like, there's no need for that here. Just say what you mean in the most clear and concise way possible. No poems, cliches, haikus, none of that here. Titles, you don't have to restate the prompt. They already know which prompt you're answering. Flowery language, I mean, there's some of you that have really good vocabulary and want to use it and people to know that you know these words. But certainly, again, specificity, clarity of message, clarity is really important in these very short 350 word essays. Storytelling and scene setting. It was a dark and stormy night in a fall, in a wintry, cold, wintry eve of none of that. No, none of that is necessary here. Keep it professional, no slang, no abbreviations, again, or acronyms. Jokes and sarcasm, there's a time for it and a time for, again, specificity, clarity. So, if you feel the need to, describe a funny situation to highlight an example to one of the questions, that may be appropriate, but certainly we don't encourage, the use of jokes or sarcasm. A lot of times in writing, you're asked to write a hook, right? Make it interesting, engage the reader. Well, this may not be, and that's not the kind of writing that you need for this particular activity in the application. So keep that in mind. Once you finish your PIQs, you're kind of coming near the end of the submission process. You're going to want to make sure that all of the sections that Ms. Oliver described initially are checked off. That indicates that they have been completed. You want to review your application more than once before you submit it. Again, grammar is important. That's something we haven't talked about, but grammar is important, making sure that you spell your name with a capital, like if I'm going to spell my name, Maria Leiva, with a capital M and a capital L, and that my street address is capitalized, because we're not texting each other, right? We're filling out a college application, and it's a very important, serious document, okay? Have your counselor or supporting staff member review your application before you submit it. I cannot stress that enough. Again, if that student that came to me earlier today hadn't consulted with me before he submitted it, there was at least 3 mistakes that he made in his course history that we were able to resolve, and it took less than 10 minutes. So making sure you consult your counselor is super duper important. Before you submitting, you can print a PDF version of your application from your Chromebook, so that you can have a record of what you're submitting. Prior to submitting, you must acknowledge the following 4 steps. An academic review, making sure that you have the appropriate A through G courses listed to meet the requirements. Your state of legal residence, because again, you want to be considered a California resident in order to meet the residency requirements for in-state tuition. You want to sign and then figure out which releases you want to fill out, like who you want the university to release information to, and then you want to have a credit card or check, or figure out your payment of method or fee waiver if you qualify. So students will be prompted to correct any errors before they continue with the submission process. So it'll give you a to-do. It'll look something like this. When you're doing your academic review, which is one of the 4 steps that you need to do in order to be able to submit your application, you're gonna be able to see, for example, here are the A through G requirements in the table, and the number of missing requirements. So in this case, it's showing that the student is missing at least 1 year of math and at least 1 year of science. Usually it's a mistake that can be corrected. So it's just a matter of going back and making the appropriate corrections. This is where if you've indicated that you want to be considered for a fee waiver, The fee waiver is automatically calculated for California and domestic residents. The calculator uses the family size and income information that you provided earlier in the application to determine if you're eligible. If you are eligible, which it'll say right underneath fee waiver, that red box that says fee waiver, it says you've qualified for a UC application fee waiver. So once it's determined that you have qualified, you have to go ahead and accept it. So right underneath it, it says, would you like to accept the fee waiver? And of course, you're going to click yes. Who's going to say no to free money? But once you click yes, then that means that the fee waiver will be used to pay the $70 application per campus. So it's $70 per campus. Okay. If you make a mistake on your family income amount, then you can correct the information with the edit button, and the fee waiver will automatically recalculate whether you qualify or not based on the new information you provide. So, this is that screen in a bigger form. So yeah, this is saying you've qualified for a UC application fee waiver. Would you like to accept? Yes. You reviewed, and then you hit submit my application. It tells you successfully submitted your UC application. Make sure you review the information below. This little box is super important. So we encourage you to print a receipt that you can just save as a PDF on your Chromebook. We encourage you to view and print your application and save it as a PDF on your Chromebook. But this application ID number is super important, because if you need to go back and make a correction, or as you're hearing from the different campuses in March when they release their admissions decisions, this is the information that you're going to need in order to hear from those campuses. So this information is super duper important. Okay. And then changes after you submit, there are very minimal changes that you can make once you submit an application. You can make changes to your contact information, and if you've gotten updated exam scores, you can do that. You can also apply to additional campuses if they continue to be open past November 30th. You can make some minor tweaks to activities awards and that section of the application. If you have significant updates, like for example, you decided you were going to drop AP stats, after fall semester, you will then have to contact each university that you applied to directly to let them know about your change. If you need support with that, obviously let us know. But like I said, there's not a lot that you can change once you submit, which is why we encourage you to consult your counselor before you submit. Okay, guys, if you want to take a picture of this, again, it's going to be, on our website. The video is going to be on our website. But this is the email that you would email if you had questions about your application. This is the number you can call within the U.S. For the UC Application Center Help Desk. Hours are here, closed on the weekends. Keep in mind the special hours during Thanksgiving break, and closer as we get closer to November 30th, they're open pretty late. Closed on the following days, November 25th, which I believe is Thanksgiving Thursday, December 25th, which is Christmas, and January 1st, which is New Year's. So. Some additional resources. This is a link to the Personal Insight Questions worksheet. I think it's the one that I already linked in the previous slide. Some more information on the Personal Insight Questions. This YouTube video is a step-by-step on how to complete the application, and it takes you through screen by screen. And it's done out of UC Santa Barbara. Our memo on college entrance exams with links to the different campuses, campus systems, so that you can be informed as to whether you should or shouldn't take the SAT or ACT at this time. Again, UC and CSU are not using SAT scores or ACT scores as part of their admission criteria. So there's additional resources for you there. If you want in-person support with a college application, whether it's CSU, UC, Hartnell, or it's your FAFSA or California Dream Act application, we will be available starting next Wednesday from 3:15 to 4:30 in the library. Bring a charged Chromebook, an unofficial transcript, financial aid materials. See the financial aid materials checklist, which is going to be posted on our website soon. And making sure you have your account logins and passwords. And we will help you in person to complete any college-related activity that you need to do. And that concludes our presentation for today. If there are any questions in the chat, if you want to unmute yourself and ask questions, yeah, we are done presenting.